Hi, my today's class is related to features of investment. In the previous class, I have explained the different meaning and definitions of investment. Today, I am going to explain the different features of investment. Before starting the features of investment, let me recall the meaning of investment. Investment means the conversion of idle cash into an asset or use of cash, use of fund in different sector in order to get the good return or in order to increase the value of cash or value of fund. So therefore you are going to use your fund or you are going to convert your idle cash into an asset with the expectation of increase in the value of cash or in the value of money or fund in the future. So therefore you are going to convert it into an asset, or therefore you are going to play with the cash, play with the money, because that will increase. With that play you are going to get good return. So that is the expectations of each and every investor. So that is a concept which we have studied in the previous class about the meaning of investment. See, in case I told I conversion of idle cash into an asset is called an investment. So then what is idle cash? Idle cash means the cash which does not grow in the future. The value of money, if it is not grow in the future, then it is called as idle cash. Best example, if you have 500 rupees in with you from last 1 year, then it is called as idle cash. You are not utilized it for any purpose, either as an investment or for any expenses purpose. You are not used it. So that is called as idle cash. Instead of keeping it with you for a long time, you would have been deposited in the bank. If you are used it for as deposit in the bank, then you would have got rupees 5% rate of return on rupees 500. The 5% rate of interest on rupees 500 means hardly you are going to get 2.5. So your 500 rupees is converted into 2.5. That means total value is growing. The 500 rupees value is growing. That is, in the end of the year you are going to get 5 or 2.5. So that is called as a conversion of idle cash into an asset. The value increased. Value of 500 rupees is increased from after 1 year. So that is the technique of investment, the conversion of idle cash into an asset. The people use with the rupees the people use the money to borrow different class of assets, and with the intention of investment means as an investment, and in the future they are going to get good value for that particular purpose. Like the people use the money capital to borrow the land, real estate as an investment, because in the future they are going to get good return. The people who play the in stock market as a trader, their intention is to get good return. So they are playing with the money, playing with the cash, and with that cash they are going to get good return in the future. So that is their purpose. So that is called as a conversion of idle cash into an asset is called an investment. So let me explain now the different features of investment. First is a sacrifice of liquidity. Whenever the concept of investment comes, then there is a sacrifice of liquidity. You have to sacrifice some part of your liquidity. Liquidity means cash, money, or fund. That's called as a liquidity, the asset which is in the form of cash. So you have to sacrifice your earnings. You have to sacrifice your revenue for the purpose of investment. So sacrifice plays a major role in case of investment. The sacrifice of liquidity, sacrifice of cash, sacrifice of money, sacrifice of your earnings. Why? For the purpose of to get good return in the future. Sacrificing means of, say, if you're earning rupees 20,000 per month, and there you are going to save 25% of your earnings. 20,000 in 25% means 5,000. 5,000 you are going to save every month. That is 5,000 is called as a sacrifice of liquidity. You are not using that 5,000 for any other purpose, and you are going to invest in different sector, or you're that from that 5,000 you are borrowing RD account, in the bank, or every month you are depositing into your RD account rupees 5,000, or in a mutual fund rupees 5,000 every month. So that is called as a sacrifice of liquidity. You are sacrificing 25% of your earnings every month. So that is called as sacrifice of liquidity. And you are avoided some weekend parties or some entertainment programs, or you avoided some traveling to different places, because you are reduced some expenses. Reduction of your expenses is called as a sacrifice of liquidity. So why you are reducing, you are trying to reduce your expenses, or you are postponed or cancelled some entertainment program or weekend parties. Why it is? And your all unnecessary expenses, your plan to reduce that. It is main intention is to reduce the sacrifice. Reducing of expenses main intention is to, for the purpose of investment, to save some money, to get some surplus, to save some savings from maintaining savings in your earnings. So that is the purpose of why you are postponed or cancelled some of your expenses, or why you are reduced some of your expenses, or why you are postponed some of your desires for the future. That is only for the purpose of investment. So sacrifice plays major role in investment. If you are earner of rupees 5, for example, if you are earning 500 rupees per day, then in that 500 rupees you are going to save 300 rupees every day. Why? By avoiding some unnecessary expenses. You generally prefer the low cost, means not preferring the high quality food. You will generally get the meals of lower price, or you will avoid the snacks in during morning time, or even in the breakfast time, or in the during evening time. You will avoid some snacks or tea, coffee, or any other non-alcoholic beverages. So you will try to avoid some unnecessary expenses. So that is called as a sacrifice of liquidity. Every day you are going to save 300 rupees, and that 300 rupees you are going to invest in different sectors. You can take the examples of pygmy collectors, the shopkeepers. They every day they deposit some amount in pygmy account. That is called as a sacrifice of liquidity, and in the future they get some lump sum amount that can be used as investment. So that is called as a sacrifice of liquidity, sacrificing to get some good return. Why you are going to save 25% of your earnings every month? Because you want to fulfill some desires in the future. So as I quoted the example of, if your salary is 20,000 per month and you are going to save 25%, it is a 25% means a hardly 5,000 rupees every month you are going to save, and you are deposited in RD at 5% rate of interest, and after 1 year you are going to get nearly 70,000. And from that 70,000 you are going to fulfill some desire, either buying of vehicles, or buying of any cell phones, or any electronic items, or any other purpose. Or you can carry forward that investment for 5 years. After 5 years you are going to get very good amount, lump sum amount. Again, that also will help you to fulfill different desires, either construction of the house, or the purchase of the house, or purchasing of motor cars or motorbikes, or purchasing of new cell phones, or purchase of any other electronic items for personal use or for your family purpose. So that is all the purpose of why you are saved 25% of your earnings or your income. So that is called as a sacrifice of liquidity. It may be sacrificing for the benefit of the family members, or for to enjoy yourself. So that is depends on the particular investor. So that is all about the sacrifice of liquidity. So whenever the concept of investment comes, then there is a sacrifice of liquidity. The next feature is expectation of return. When the investment comes, the every investor expectation is to get the good return. Generally the investors expect a high rate of return. Always our expectation is generally high than what we have invested. So generally we, within a week we want to double the amount, within a year we want to double the amounts. That is what the people generally expect, because they have a lot of desires behind them, so therefore they expect more. If you invested 5,000, then you expect 10,000 after 1 year. After investing 5,000 within 1 year, or within some people's within 6 months, they want double that particular amount. So therefore, there are a lot of schemes which are available, fake schemes in the market, the fake persons who will influence the peoples, or who will misguide the peoples. They will double the amount within a short duration, within 1 year, within 6 months. So that's why, because they are tracking the sentiments of the peoples. Every peoples have the lot of desires, and to fulfill all the desires they need money, and the earnings or the savings, from the savings or the from the surplus, it is not possible to fulfill their desires. So therefore, generally expectations of the peoples are generally high. So that is called as a expectation of return. So of course, whenever investment comes, there is a return. As like I quoted the example, in case of sacrifice of liquidity, your earning is 20,000 and you have saved 25%, that's a 5,000 every month, and you have kept it in RD, or you are deposited into your RD account every month. After 1 year, it value, principal value will be 60,000, and plus interest amount 5% compound rate of interest. So your expectation is after 1 year that value will become 70,000. So that return is depends on risk factor. So definitely there is a return on investment, and but that return is dependent on the risk factor, which investment avenue is selected by you for investment, whether it is a safer zone or risky zone. There are three sector: low risk, moderate risk, as well as a high risk investment avenues where you are invested. So that is a very important. Your return is dependent on your investment. So generally, the people say, as like I told, the expectation is generally high. If I invest 5,000 today, I want 10,000 tomorrow. It is not possible. Highly, it is not possible in any sector. So the people as like or after 1 month also, it is not possible to double the amount. Of course, you can invest in highest risk field, but where there is a possibility, highest risk means the possibility of getting the return is also high. At the same time, possibility of losing the entire amount is also high. So that's not possible in get doubling the amount within a short duration is not possible. Only it is carries the highest risk investment avenue. So generally the people's expectation is like that only. So like for example, in case you purchased 500 rupees lottery ticket and winning amount is 1 crore, their expectation is generally high. Why we borrow the lottery ticket? 500 rupees cost of the ticket, and winning amount is 1 crore. Our target is 1 crore. Expectation is getting the 1 crore. But at the same time, if you are not the winner, or if you are the loser, then you will lose the entire investment amount. So that is called as a people's expectation is generally high. So whenever the expectations and realities goes together, then definitely you will get the good return. So your expectation must be together with the reality. You should not expect more than what is there in the present situation, in the present market, in the present investment avenues. If you are deposited 10,000 as bank FD, then it is not possible to get a 25% or 30% rate of return. So that the reality is only at present is a 5 to 6% rate of return. So that's why expectations should goes to with the reality, then definitely you will get the good return. So that is, you have to analyze their expectation and realities. Whenever it goes together, linked together, then definitely you will get the good return. So that is all called as a expectation of return. Of course, we have the expectation of getting the return, so that's why we saved some amount from our hard earnings or from our hard cash, then we utilized it in different investment avenues, and we expect always positive return. But that positive return is dependent on the investment avenue. So that is called as a expectation of return. This next feature is involvement of risk. So whenever again in the previous point I have quoted the feature of expectation of return. Now the involvement of risk. The return is based on the risk factor. Risk and return are two faces of a coin. So whenever there is a risk, then there will be a return. So return is always based on the risk factor. So involvement of risk. The risk is involved in each and every investment avenues, investment sector, in investment schemes. Say in case of bank FD, there is a risk. It varies from banks to bank, and in RD there is a risk, and it's less risk. It can not. I am not saying that there is a high. It carries a high risk, but there is a low risk. And when you go for the stock market, then there is also risk, and it also varies from different. There are a lot of divisions or the schemes, avenues in case of stock market. And when you go for the gambling, then again there also the risk. In every investment avenues there is a risk. Then you have to identify the risk based on your expectation, based on your capital. So then you have to identify the risk, analyze the risk. They see the people's why they borrow the FDs. Most of the people's they deposit, they borrow the bank FDs because it is a safer zone. Risk safer zone means risk is a less, where there is no loss for their principal amount and definite guarantee for their principal amount plus interest amount. So therefore they will deposit most of their amount in a bank only. Bank FD, the peoples will choose it as investment avenues. First preference, everyone prefer bank FD because it is a safer zone. And most of the peoples borrow the life insurance policies at because again it is also considered as a safer zone, safe for their investment amount, safe for their principal amount. And some peoples borrow the recurring deposits, RDs in the bank. Again, it is also carries the less risk, safer zone, where there is a safe for principal amount. Involvement of risk, assessing, identifying the risk. You have to identify the investment avenues where there is a less risk for your principal amount or zero risk for your principal amount. Identification of investment amount from the viewpoint of your capitals. Capital is the safe. Then comes return, how much return you are getting, 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%. So that varies from investment avenues to, from one investment avenues to another investment avenues. So that is a, first you have to identify the risk. So therefore that's why what I told, the people prefer the bank FDs because the risk is less. Even if they have the excess amount, then they go for the share market or speculation or stock market because they have the excess amount. They after having enough deposit in case in banks, then they will go for other sectors because always whenever you are taking the highest risk, on another side you must have the safer zone of investment. Safer zone of investment like borrowing the bank FDs, LIC policies, or postal FD, postal schemes, or even RDs or mutual funds. Right now, that not all the mutual fund. There are some kinds of mutual funds. They are all considered as a safer zones. Once if you have enough investment, in case of a safer zone of investment or less risk zone, then you can go for the moderate risk investment avenues or high risk investment avenues. So trading in stock market or gambling or purchasing of gold or real estate, that all comes later part because there is a risk. So you have to identify the risk, then risk statement. You have to get the risk statement and analyze and prioritize. You have to analyze the risk, as like analyzing the risk means study of the risk factor. Then you have to prioritize. So after finding the investment avenues like bank schemes, postal schemes, LICs, gold, real estate, stock market, gambling. These are the investment avenues. Now we have to analyze the risk. When you analyze, after analyzing the risk, then you will find bank FDs, postal schemes are safer zones. First priorities. Then comes LICs, next priorities, and then you can give the priority for the mutual funds. Then comes the gold or the real estate. Then you can go for the stock market, the speculation. And there is again there is a less risk investment avenues, but prioritizing preference. Then you can prefer the gambling, the betting, or buying of lottery tickets. So These all card games, these all considered. So that's last preference. So analysis and prioritize, and it is your selection. You have to make particular portfolio. You have to choose the investment avenue which is the best for you. Next is the plan and schedule. You have to plan as per the risk factor, then as per your capital, as per your expectation, as per your earnings. You have to plan and schedule when you have to when you have to procure or purchase that particular investment avenues. And track and report is another means. You have to observe after investing, after utilizing the capital in different investment avenues, then you have to observe it, you have to monitor it. That is a track and report, how much return you are going to get, whether it is going as per your expectation or not, whether it is going beyond your expectation. If it is going beyond, out of your expectation or out of your analysis, then you have to close that one, because less risk is higher. So in such cases you have to convert that into and other type of investment avenues. Then control and learn so about the different risk factors, then you can take the decision of investment. So this is all important. In its risk factor is a very important in case of investment. So always return is dependent on the risk factor. So therefore I told in the beginning, the risk and return are two faces of the coin, and you have to analyze it, then only you have to take the decision of investment. And if you want good return with a short duration, and if you are invested entire amount in case of gambling sector, then there is a possibility of losing the entire capital also. So that is without analyzing the risk factor. If you are invested amount, then the risk is more for your capital, not for your return. The risk is more for your capital amount. Possibility of losing the amount is a capital amount is a high. So that's why you have to analyze the risk. So when you come for, this is the risk pyramid or with the chart which explains about the involvement of risk. So low risk generally is in case of bank FDs, or in case of LICs, or in case of postal schemes. So that carries very less risk, and some are carry zero risk investments. And even government insured or government securities also carries zero risk. Then another part is a moderate risk, where you can use your fund in case of real estate, or in case of gold, or high income bonds, and balanced mutual funds. There are a lot of divisions in a mutual fund, and some mutual funds carries low risk, some mutual funds carries moderate risk, and some mutual fund carries a high risk. So there are a lot of division. Even in case of stock also, speculation stock market also, some carries low risk, some carries medium risk, and some carries high risk. So you have to analyze it, and then you have to take the decision of investment. So that's all about involvement of risk. You have to balance the risk and return. So if you are balanced the risk and return, definitely you are going to get the success in your investment avenue. That is the skill, that is the strategy which you have to apply, because ultimate it's your earning, your hard cash, your surplus, your savings. So therefore you have to balance it properly, otherwise you are going to lose your hard cash, hard surplus, hard earnings. That's for you have your, whenever you take any decision of investment, first preference give for safety for your capital. How much save that particular investment avenue, how much save from for your capital, that is a very important. So that is about involvement of risk. The next feature of investment is the incidence of taxation. All investment avenues carries the taxation, or you can say that most of the investment avenues carries the taxation. You cannot avoid the taxation from investment avenues, but there are some investment avenues through that you can grow your money, as well as you can save your tax. Not 100%. So it depends on their provision, depends on their criteria. So but you can grow your money by saving the tax. Otherwise most of part of your earnings goes in the goes as form of in the form of tax. Most of the earnings of earnings you should pay in the form of tax. So therefore you have to be more careful, because we used our surplus or earnings to get good return, and from the return most of the part if it goes in the as tax to the government, then your return is generally is less, so then you will find it difficult to fulfill your desire in the future. So therefore grow your money by saving the tax, then you can get good return, high return, you can enjoy the high return. So that is in case of investment. There are a lot of investment avenues like FDs or NSE or LIC policies or mutual funds, equity linked mutual fund schemes, or PPF, public provident fund, or NPS, national pension schemes. So there are a lot of investment schemes which are provide the tax benefits. So you have to plan investment to reduce the tax burden. Each and every investor, they plan to reduce the tax burden, and after getting the benefit of tax, then they will go for the other investment zone. Like in case of under 80C, the taxpayer can get, or the investor can get the benefit of taxation up to rupees 1,50,000 as per the present income tax rule, or as per the present income tax act. They can get the deduction up to rupees 1,50,000. So after using all these, even if you have the excess amount, then you can go for other investment avenues where there is a high rate of tax. Like gambling, you can prefer the gambling, you can buy the lottery tickets, or you can buy the or you can involve in case of bettings or any other type of gambling activities whenever there is excess fund, because there it carries the high rate of tax. Even in case of trading in stock market also, it carries the high rate of taxation. So there you can invest your fund whenever there is a excess fund. So again it differ from investment avenues to one investment to another investment avenue, so that you have to plan how to reduce the tax and how to grow your money. So tax saving investments are comes under 80C of the Income Tax Act 1961, that provided different investment avenues where the peoples can use it as investment avenues, as well as they can save the tax. So that is the investment schemes which are provided under section 80C. So that's all about incidence of taxation. Of course we have to pay the tax to the government for the betterment of the country. It is some part of our earnings. If you have the good revenue, good earnings, then definitely you have to pay the tax to the government, because it will help the government to further to get good revenue. But at the same time, the government itself is provided how you can grow your money by saving the tax. So that's all about incidence of tax. The next feature is taxes deducted at source. It's the same points which I have explained in case of previous point. Tax investment which carries the taxation. Tax deducted at source means it's called as a TDS. TDS means it is tax deducted at source. So means before crediting the amount to the investor, if the amount is deducted as a tax, then it is called as a TDS. Means aims at collection of revenue at the very source of income. From the source of income itself is the tax is deducted, then it is called as a TDS. An indirect method of collecting the tax combines the concept of pay as you earn and collect as it is being earned. TDS is one of the modes of collection of taxes by which a certain percentage of amounts are deducted by a person at the time of making or crediting certain specific nature of payment to the other person, and deducted amount is remitted to the government account. It is to minimize the tax deduction. You should know the provisions of tax savings investment under the various sections of the Income Tax Act. So TDS are there. So whenever you are selecting the investment avenues, and you have to see the TDS tax rate, which investment carries high rate of tax, which investment carries less TDS, less rate of tax, as like bank FDs. It is there, TDS is there in bank FD also, but whenever the interest earnings is more than 10,000 per annum, so then they will deduct 10% as TDS. When you go for a gambling sector, if you won 30,000 amount in by borrowing the lottery tickets, then they will deduct 30% as TDS. 30% means nearly 9,000 as TDS. Then you are going to get 21,000. That is So in such a way, you have to select the investment avenues where there is a less tedious than such type of investment avenues you have to select in the beginning. And once if you have enough capital, excess capital, then you can go for the other investment zones or investment avenues. So investment carries the tedious, that because it implies the tax, there is an incidence of tax, so therefore it carries the tedious also. Incidence of tax means investment avenues carries the taxation. Your return is considered for taxation, and sometime you have to pay after getting the return, and in some investment avenues your tax will be deducted at the time of paying the return, or before crediting the amount to the particular investor, the tax will be deducted, the TDS will be deducted. So even in case of real estate also, if you are involved in case of land business, if you have selected land as the investment avenues, then at the time of selling of land as well as buying of land, it carries a high rate of tax. It comes under capital gain. So that's all about the taxes deducted at a source. So in today's class, I have explained 5 features of investment. The remaining features I will explain in the next video. Since there are a lot of features, it's not possible to cover and it consumes more time. So therefore, I stick for the 5 features of investment in today's class, and remaining features I will explain in other classes. So that's all about the different features of investment. Thank you. Thank you very much.